So electrons are electrons are electrons, right? Right? A funny thought occurred to me recently regarding chargers and networks where, yeah, in theory, there's no difference between one 50 kilowatt DC supply and another, and surely that eliminates choice between different products. The only difference is price, and there's no reason to pick one network over another, not like petrol or diesel. The thing is, that's not only wrong, it's actually the opposite of reality. There are two things that matter for fuel: how much it costs and where it is. Unless you belong to a very small niche of motorists, and trust me, no matter how much you think you do, you almost certainly don't, there's no point in buying premium fuel. And I know I snob out and buy premium fuel from branded stations because I'm as big an idiot as you are, because I know there's no difference, but there's always that FUD, and I want the best for my precious ride. There is, however, no point. Supermarket fuel comes from the same refineries as branded fuel on the same trucks, it's the same formulation. What's more is, if you look it up, you're going to find that your vehicle doesn't need a higher octane rating. Mine runs fine in 95. In fact, it'll run in 92 because in the US it runs happily on 87. Maybe you're super concerned about E10. Dun dun dun! But this is also pointless to worry about unless your car is like more than 25 years old. They've been running E10 on the continent for decades, and the engines they build for the UK aren't special snowflakes carefully and delicately crafted just for us. Get over yourself. Don't even get me started on premium diesel. I'm going to laugh at you until you die of embarrassment. Basically, all petrol is the same, all diesel is the same. Buy it the cheapest you can get without going too far out of your way. So, now that we've established that fuel is all the same and bereft of real choice, how does that argument that electricity isn't go? Well, what matters for DC chargers? Reliability, payment, and location. There are some interesting variations in pricing, but given how much cheaper charging is versus fuel, it's less significant. I think my Energica is about a third the cost per mile in those terms, and for reasons I'll get onto, I specifically choose expensive DC chargers. There are also performance differences, which I'll admit to being a little blind to because even the slowest DC chargers can top out my bike's charge speed. So, on those terms, reliability, payment, and location, there are definitely big differences between networks. Pretty astounding differences, to be honest. Not so much differences as vast gulfs that leave you blanking some networks as if they didn't exist, and seeking out others as if they were the only option. And unlike with fuel, there are real concrete reasons why. And we'll start with reliability, because I feel like this is the big one and probably the most significant, because whoever worries that fuel pumps won't work? Chargers break. Annoyingly, they seem to break a bit more than you might expect, and some networks' chargers seem to break more than others. There are, of course, other aspects to reliability. Fuel pumps also break, but you rarely notice because when was the last time you pulled up at a forecourt with one pump? Incidentally, I did that twice in Scotland, and on one of them the pump was broken. Chargers are generally found in pairs, where two units will share a cabinet of power electronics, the reliable part, with each unit having the delivery cable, authorization, payment, charge management, etc., the parts most likely to fail. Usually, when you go to a charge location, you'll find banks of chargers in pairs for this reason, but usually they'll just be a single pair, and some networks really love to install single chargers. I've gone to charge locations where one in the pair has been broken, but the other was working. I've also been to locations with a single unit and it's been broken, which means you don't get to charge. And that means going to a single unit location is taking a risk. Going to a location with only one pair is also gambling that you won't have to wait, especially at a popular location. There is definitely a difference across networks in terms not only of how many units they install at charging locations, but also how reliable those units are. And what do you do if a charger doesn't work, though? You call the network support line, and maybe a CSR will reset the machine remotely for you. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Again, different networks put different amounts of effort into this, and that can mean the difference between a short call and a long hold cycle waiting for someone to answer. And it can also mean the difference between someone coming out to fix the machine tomorrow versus next week, or depressingly longer. So, reliability, that's a big deal. What's the point of going to a charger if it's not going to work or you have to queue for an hour? So, what about payment? I'm using payment not in terms of pricing here, but as a catch all for how you authorize with the unit, initiate the charge, and actually transfer money to the network to pay for it. Now, apart from free vend, which you can sometimes rarely find, there are basically three ways to do this: RFID tags, mobile apps, and contactless. And of course, which a charger supports varies. RFID tags are simple. You make an account with the network, associate a payment method, and they send you a tag which you use to authorize with the charger and start the charge using whatever buttons or touchscreen are on the unit. Often you can download an app that mirrors the RFID tag too and allows you to manage your account. This is the worst solution because you need to have an account and a physical token, and if you want to use the app, you'll have to deal with many issues that apps have. If they don't have an app, that means you can't just go up to the charger with no preparation and charge a vehicle. Which brings us to app-based solutions. You make an account with the network, associate a payment method, download the app and use it with an RFID reader on the charger to off. Then you either use the unit itself or, for the worst setups, the app to start the charge. Again, you need to have an account, but in this case you can just go to the charger, discover you need the account, and set it up on the spot. If you have internet there and data and a smartphone and the battery isn't dead and the app works. Some networks do at least have free Wi-Fi hotspots with limited access to allow you to use the app on location, but I don't know that I trust those, and you'll need to turn VPN off if you habitually use one. Now, hopefully you'll have already identified the issues here. You need an account with the network for starters, which means you either need to prepare beforehand or faff around when you get there. You also end up with a load of accounts, apps, and RFID tags for loads of different networks. Now, charging networks will tell you they're trying to cut deals together so that their apps and tags are cross-compatible to offset the mess, and some utilities have been doing similar, so you can pay with your utility account, which honestly just feels like an XKCD strip. Here's my question, though. Why do you need an account? You don't need one to fuel up an ICE vehicle, after all. The answer is that you don't. And that raises a whole bunch of questions about what's going on with all the data gathered from your charging habits. I'm not going to get into that today, but suffice to say, you should be suspicious of anything that requires an account for no reason. And it is no reason, because there is already a method of doing this all without an account that's standardized, established, proven, and works with a physical token you already have. It's called American Express, or MasterCard, or Visa, whatever plastic you have in your wallet will do. Credit or debit, as long as it has a contactless chip. In theory, you could even do it chip and pin, but I've never seen a charger with a full card reader on it. Generally, how this works is you tap your card, it pre-auths some amount of money depending on the network, then you plug the vehicle in and control the charge from the unit. Then once you're done, it converts the pre-auth into an actual charge. No account, no apps, no phones, no tags. You can just go to the charger and initiate the charge without any faff or preparation. And there's no additional clutter to manage. Contactless is by far the best way to manage payment And I don't know why networks bother messing around with interoperability when they could roll out contactless instead. Okay, that was a little bit of a rant, so we'll calm down and take a look at location. Now, obviously, there are two big factors with location, being roughly somewhere convenient to whatever your vehicle's charge range is, and roughly somewhere convenient to whatever your human factors range is. In other words, if you're going to need to stop on your trip, you're going to want there to be a charger wherever you need to stop, regardless of whether it's because of your battery or your bladder. So that's going to limit your choices, right? You're just going to stop wherever the most en route charger is, right? Well, no, because there are a variety of tools for figuring out where chargers are, and as range improves, you have more choice in where you stop and what way you route your trip, which means you can shop around, metaphorically speaking, for chargers in the general area of your route or intended stopping point. That means not only can you select for reliability and payment, but also for what's at the charger. You see, if you've not tried out a trip in an EV, you might think the chargers are all in convenient places, and that's a reasonable assumption to make, especially given charge times, but surprisingly it's not true. Down the back of an industrial estate, in a gym car park, at a supermarket, etc. Now there are chargers in places that make more sense as a stop on the way somewhere. McDonald's fills me with disgust, but a fair number of them here in the UK have chargers, and usually you'll find other stuff nearby. DC chargers don't tend to be in places you'd want to actually go, but most motorway and A-road services do have them here in the UK. In general, though, the incidence of things like toilets, coffee shops, convenience stores, and food outlets at DC chargers is pretty mixed, and can often be underwhelming. So once you find one that does offer those things, you'll tend to find yourself selecting it again and again and again in future. And the minor factors? Well, some people can be price conscious, but most chargers here in the UK are in the same price band with a couple of notable outliers. Charge rate will matter to you more if you have a large battery and the ability to accept a high charge rate, but it's still a fairly niche concern. So if you put all of that together, you start to build a picture of how individual chargers and whole networks can express quite a broad range of desirability that leaves a lot of real scope for customer selection and competition. I keep my ZapMap filter to contactless only because I don't like messing around with accounts and apps. And I've already found that there are some networks that are awful and I will avoid, and some that are excellent and I'll seek out. I said, for instance, a few moments ago that the UK has chargers at nearly all services. Well, the government handed out a contract to a network to do that, and they installed universally panned, utterly unreliable chargers, often in single rather than pairs, requiring an app, and they of course have an exclusivity deal. So if you want to take a road trip in the UK in your EV, you won't be charging at motorway services much. Although things are now changing as that deal seems to have come to an end and decent charging locations are being rolled out to various motorway services. In conclusion, I think it's clear that there is, for now at least, a much greater differentiation between EV chargers than there is between fuel stations. Fuel really has basically nothing in it except price and how far out of your way you have to go to get it for practically everyone. Chargers, however, have a lot of variation in reliability, convenience, and how the operating network manages those factors to the point where it is in fact reasonable to shun some and seek out others. So, I hope you found this informative. Do like the video if so, and leave a comment if you think I missed something. I have many other videos you could check out, both in this format and others. Subscribe if you like them, and hit the bell too. Want to reward me for producing this video? Check out the Ko-fi link in the description below.